So, we're here today to talk about legacy. We're staying on the positive track right now. Me and Frost are going to be positive for the rest of this, except for my
Mm.
gray hairs. Well, I guess it's a good thing we're talking about legacy because, with gray hairs, it means I'm old and I'm going to die soon, right? So I better start leaving one soon, and we'll talk about mine a little later. Um, I think we all get inspired, and I think, what we get inspired from is someone else's legacy. Whether if we realize it or not, I personally define legacy as anything left behind, good or bad, but we're going to focus on the good stuff, or maybe even learning from the bad stuff, that will, in one way or another, affect someone down the line, whether if it's one day later or 100 years later. I'm interested, however, how you define legacy, Frost, because I think you're going to have a different definition. I got you him as he was eating food.
Yeah. What's up?
I got you as you were eating food. How would you define legacy? Because I think yours is different than mine.
Uh, when it comes down to legacy, I think it's defined by two very distinct aspects about you. Your ambitions and your history.
See, I knew
How
you were
and
going to say ambition.
yeah.
And I'm more on the legacy. I see both parts, like you see both parts. But, yeah, I get it. So, one of my legacy things is I call him my grandfather. If anyone says otherwise, the evil in me will come out. Um, However, his name was John, and he was a legend beyond legends. No matter what, even like on his deathbed in pain, had a smile on his face. Was always positive. If you weren't positive, you were actively failing in your life. He left behind several things that I was able to learn from, other people's were impacted on, and it's helped at least I know me to move on. You know, he didn't leave much material um, for us, but what he left mentally, emotionally, spiritually is, even though it's not, something, allowed us to grow, allowed us to learn and become who we are today. I'm very proud of all the things that he's done. Um, it's a sad that he had to go, but when he did go, something new came above it. Something new grew. I try myself to be more positive every single day and accept even myself, even though I hate myself more than anyone. Um, we see how things are. When I think back on, you know, what he did in his life, I see that he didn't do any of it for him. Now, I'm not going to say he's like completely selfless. There were things that he did indulge in and he enjoyed. But if he had a choice of, making himself happy at the cost of someone else, or making someone else happy at the cost of him, it was always the latter option. And that's just how it was. Yanis, and Frost, I actually think you have a legacy
Hey,
that you're living up to.
a self-entitled hermit living up to a legacy.
No, I was going to say something else, but even though, the person hasn't passed away yet, I feel like your older, not eldest sister, you know, pushed a lot onto you in terms of, she always looked out for you and defended you and blah, blah, blah. And when I look at you two now, you're a lot similar. You picked up a lot of things from her, a lot of positive traits, and you've grown. I don't know if you feel the same way, or if you have another legacy you would say you're more connected to, but
I don't really think I've thought about that before.
I'd like it to be known. I did plan. I talked to him how he'd like a little bit of an overlay so he knew kind of what I was talking about. Um, And he just read it, even though the podcast is late. I just would like to let them know I did my part.
You did your part.
Droopy, if you could refund all the points, they should have been deactivated, but we'll see. What I find to be super inspiring to me is when I think about, we all say personal bubbles and stuff, and what goes on inside those bubbles are our personal things, and if you're not inside that, we tend not to really care as a society, and I think that's a really big bummer. But I think we could learn so much more if we just not interacted, but listen more, and felt out that there's so many third-party or external factors that could lead us to legacy, and the whole world, not just us. And it's very similar to what I say is, we have some people that are really into, American culture and they don't live in America, or British culture and they may live in Africa, or, Australians might have some Asian culture in them, vice versa, all over the place. Some people are interested in certain cultures and they just do it for fun, but if you take some of those culture standpoints and learn from it and build from it, you're taking on them and bringing it into your life, and that also is legacy. You're taking the culture and moving it forward. When I look at some of the inner circles, like I said, I've got John. I also have some close friends that have legacies. I have some personal ones that I would like to leave behind as well, which sounds scary, and we'll get into that a little later. But I also look, and I've taken some influence from external sources, some that I've never met before and I've heard. There's this person that I used to watch their social media very much, a lot, and they no longer do it, and I've taken a lot of what they've learned and put it into my life. Unfortunately, they no longer stream anymore, and it said their time was gone and they're passing on the torch. I don't feel like I was one of those people that caught onto that torch at the time, but I know many people did, and it's great to see that things keep moving on. Is there any external source like that, Frost, that you've seen, maybe not in your personal life, but you've maybe seen another external source pick up?
Not entirely sure, because I'm not a very social person and I don't really, examine things as deeply as you do.
You are very social. As long as
I am.
As long as you're in your room with the door closed and it's on a phone call.
No, I hate doing phone calls. Fuck that shit.
As you're here. Or that time
Yes.
you were playing Assassin's Creed, you had fun, don't lie.
Uh-huh.
So I've been waiting to do this. I'm going to do this live, and it's something I don't like doing because it's technically writing a script. But I'm going to look up something when we do these, and I think that this is going to be really, when we're doing this season with all different life themes, I guess. So, the definition of legacy, of course, there's multiple definitions of everything. The one we're going with by dictionary is the long-lasting impact of a particular event or events, actions, etc. that take place in the past or of a person's life. So what a lot of people see in today's world is, oh, he left me his legacy. I have his, his business and his yacht and his whatever. And there is a material aspect to it, but there's so much more, like I said earlier. I know if I was to have a family, I'd want to leave behind all three: material, spiritual, and something to live up to. Now, I think a key part of legacy is for not only for you to pass something on, but for you to give them the tools to not only get to that thing you passed on, but surpass it so the world can keep on getting better and better. We talked about in the past how I view, the world is not in the best place right now and things are happening, and that's why we want to spread some positivity. But we can only do that by, bettering the future. I feel like there have been some key figures in the past who have bettered the future.
Hmm.
And, that might be because of this, that, whatever. Frost, is there any person in the history books that you're fascinated because they did something to change the future, and we're going to stick with a positive one? You like history.
Yes.
I'm sure you got something.
Well, the thing with history is that I don't study it that often. Sure, it was one of the easier subjects in school, but I don't really know that much about it.
Well, I sent you three so you just know who I talked about. Um, there are three people that, I thought would have been great because they all did different things. Some physical, some ideology, and some, culturally.
Yeah.
Um, and I would just want to show that, it doesn't have to be just physical, just mental. It could be a mixture of both. The first one is Marie. Uh, she was a Polish physicist, psychologist, all kinds of stuff, actually. When you go into her, she basically did just about anything in any in any field of science. Um, but she discovered two different types of elements on the radioactive spectrum, and they've been used for many different treatments in life. Actually, some of them are still used in even cancer treatments, or psychotherapy, actually, believe it or not.
Interesting.
And I looked more onto it, and she took a beating in her life in toll. Because, as you know, you can't just go testing things on human life first. For some reason, you got to do this, and then it moves to animals, which I think is cruel. You should move to humans before animals, because they had no choice about it. But she put such a toll on herself. Even just the mental toll of staying up all this and doing all the research to move on. I know she was nominated. I don't know if I put she won. Yeah, she did win. She was the first woman to win. I know she was nominated for a Nobel Prize. But being the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, that was a legacy in its own. The discovery of things was a legacy of its own. And the physical treatments people were able to get in the future because of this, people took this knowledge and expanded on it. There's many other people. There's Gandhi that we could talk about. Nelson Mandela. There's so many. One of the big things I feel with is we all look to celebrities and some politicians, some religious leaders, some, all the kinds of what we'd say important figures in our society. So I was reading what Droopy said, and yeah, Droopy, think about just how much that is. But we all think about like these important people, but we don't have to be important to have an impact on someone's life, and that impact, like I read the dictionary definition of it, is what leaves behind a legacy. So, Frost, if you had to leave behind a legacy, what would you want to leave behind?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but there is one thing I want for certain out of my legacy. And it's the simple fact that I want my legacy to basically have more an effect on people's lives than I ever could physically. I want my legacy to be like this ever-long, inspiring thing
The
that
hero's tale that
people
never ends.
remember. Yes.
And that's because, well, realistically, you planning on having kids?
Me?
Yeah.
Never.
So yeah, I think that's a good thing that you say your legacy. You're like, I might not have a direct family to pass it down to, my kids. So I want to let the whole world be able to have a piece of me. And I actually find that so amazing because I thought you were honestly going to crack a joke there and be like, my
Yeah.
legacy is blah blah blah.
Yeah, honestly, even if my legacy just involves like even one person in the world living a better life, then my legacy was worth it.
Guys, I think we cracked him. We finally made Frost a softie.
Oh, fuck you too.
Uh, no, I do honestly. That I'm kind of jealous because my legacy is actually much more smaller than that. What I'd like to leave behind is for my future family to be able to realize you're gonna fail, you're gonna lose, you might get in an argument with a friend, but it'll all work out in the end, and you'll become stronger of that. And I hope that my legacy lets them realize that sooner so they don't get stuck as much. That they feel free, they're not bound to anything, and they can just push forward. Even if they're view themselves, you know, like just an ordinary person, or someone else views them as a failure or a loser, that they have the strength to move forward. Whether they want to live on a small farm with a few horses, or they want to live in their office with a huge factory they build making multi-billion dollars. It doesn't matter as long as they've got that strength to move on. Everything we talked about, from Murray to, we could talk about a few other historical people like Tubman. That there's so many, and earlier with the definition, they've been huge events.
Yep.
But at the beginning, I kind of referenced that they could be small, and I don't know if this is actually a term or not. I didn't look it up, but micro legacy is what I'm going to call this. It would be the idea of you doing something one day, maybe 2 days, it has a ripple effect, and it doesn't maybe it doesn't have a long lasting ripple effect, but a small change that affects the world. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like these are so much easier to achieve than a world saving legacy. It's much easier to help a old lady cross the road metaphorically than it is to solve world hunger. But if we all do the small thing, wouldn't it pile up and equal way more than the big thing in the end?
Maybe.
So why don't we focus on these micro legacies, if that's what we want to call them, to do small day-to-day things that just bring people a smile here and there. Why don't we, even if it's something small, like, actually, here's a great example for us. How many times have you and me played a game or something in person or whatever, and for no reason, we just smile and enjoy the time? Even if, we're losing in the game, or, something happened, we got in a small argument or whatever, and no matter what, we still crack a smile.
Yeah. We're still having fun at the end of the day.
Now imagine if both of us had kids one day, our kids seeing that and then realizing they can do that too. It's one instance they saw it, but it's going to have an effect on it. So why don't we as a society, you think, like, why do you personally think as a society we don't do this?
Don't know.
It sounds so easy. I don't know why we don't do it either. Why don't we ask my expert here?
You're expert.
Yep. Sir Droopy, you're very skilled with people. And this is also a small little punishment for you. Why don't people just naturally help people out more, even if it's small things? At no cost to them, the things they can do just by existing. As an interactive podcast, we can do this, Frost. We don't have to pick on each other. We can pick on chat. Well, some people are just selfish. Well, see, that's rude, and we're trying to stay positive, so I need you to reword in a positive way.
Could reword that in a positive way.
Some people want stuff to worry about. I feel like Droopy knew I was gonna say that, and now he came prepared with that. Yeah, no, I agree, but you know, it sounds stupid, but if I help two people, and those two people help two people, they're helping four people, 8 people, so on and so forth. Even if we just say two people, two small actions, but then you possibly have, now 200, 400, 1,000 people helping back at you. You may know, if you give 10 people $1, 10 different days of the month, you're gonna get $10 at some point. And isn't that $10 worth more than that $1 you got rid of? I know equally it comes out to the same, but I don't know if that makes sense or not. But you see the point. Like, I think you'd rather lose $1 here, $1 there, and gain more at the end, than just be selfish and never have that feeling of gain. Even though you never gained anything, you at least have that feeling that you've gone from zero to hero, if you will. I think that's one of the sayings. I find it funny how such big things can come from such a small thing. Like, I randomly logged in one day to someone's stream, and I watched them, like I usually do for 2, 3, 4 streams. And then I actually, like, actively watched everything. And a few days later, they updated their message to road to 1,000 people on Twitch for their 1,000 followers. And I decided, you know what? They're trying to get their 1,000 followers. They're positive. They're trying to push positivity out in a fun way. They're doing it through the gaming. So I rated them. And a lot of the people I found in my life that were in my streams and I was rating before were a little bit on the negative side. And this new group I found myself in, because of that one little small action, I rated one person. It clicked a button, it took 10 seconds. I now have 10 friends that I got out of it that will all scratch my back if I need it scratched. I just wish society would do it more. Now,
I suppose some people are just uncertain.
you've moved and you've been down there for just over a year now. Almost 2 years. Have you seen a change in public legacy, is what I'll call this one.
Public legacy?
So where we used to live, our city, were heavily focused on the youth. It really was. They might have not been doing it correctly, but that was their focus. And the neighboring cities as well, actually. Think about one of the cities that was right by us, right over the bridge. They weren't doing that well, so the state took over their school district to help improve them to better their education. And it did work, actually, for that location. Great for them. And there's other things, like we do have sports programs up here that are pretty well for the youth. And the only reason I'm saying youth is because, you were youth for most of your time up here. But now you've gone down there. You're more of a mature adult now. And you're 100 miles, over 100 miles, a few hundred miles away from where you were.
1,200.
Yeah, have you noticed a change in your public legacy?
In my public legacy.
What, the people around you and the small community, the few cities around you want for the beneficial of others. Whether they're actually doing it or not. The perceived.
I've never really studied that part of, like, South Carolina. Now, for the most part, throughout, like, the whole year and a half that I've been down here, I have not made a single friend.
Well, that's because you don't go outside that much. You go on your walk and that's it. I'm surprised you haven't made a friend at the shooting range. But here's one thing. I'm not sure if you remember this. But we went actually down to South Carolina. Your family and my family.
Yep.
And we went to go stay at someone's house. Oh, Droopy will be your friend. You got a friend.
Droopy doesn't live down here, does he?
Droopy almost came to the. He almost came here to beat me up earlier. But Droopy, don't lie. You're across the ocean. But we went to. You're maybe, but you're now not. You're across the ocean right now. Is my point. We went to. Oh, that's true. That's true. I didn't think of that. But we went to the store, and it was called the Gay Dolphin. And I think you may have still been with us, but you weren't at the counter when this happened, when we were in the small store. But my father had purchased something. And it turns out so funny that what he purchased ended up being the Gay Dolphin. He had purchased a DVD, which makes me sound really old now. Because no one knows what those are in modern day.
Ask the kids about VHS.
We had stuff before that, you and me. But the guy at the register told my father to have a good day. My father said, "You too." And the guy at the register said, "You have a better one." Now, where we're from, my dad automatically took that as sarcasm and said, "Are you messing..." Well, he used more vulgar language, but "Are you messing with me? Like, are you being sarcastic?" And our uncle had to step in and say, "No, that's just how people are down here." And turns out when we got home and we tried to watch the DVD that it was actually all busted out and we couldn't use it. And it so happened that when my dad dumped his suitcase, and because this is back when you need to return stuff, you need to have your receipt, he dumped his entire suitcase in the washing machine. The receipt was with that still, and he didn't realize it got caught in it. And so we didn't have the receipt anyways. And, you know, it just shows me that down there it is very different. And it is positive, and it might have changed now, who knows? I haven't been down there in a while, I'd like to go down there soon. That's what it is. I'd like to talk about now how our legacies I love chat. How our legacies can allow others to create new legacies. So you said yours was about to make, a long-lasting impact on others, to grow, to be happy, even if it's something small. Well, I think if they do that, they're going to be able to, pass that on to more people. Like I said, even if your legacy only reaches 2 people, maybe those 2 people can reach 4 each. And those 4, 16 now, can reach, 20 each. And now we're at like 500. Do you think, realistically, in the world we're in, it's possible for one person's legacy to create another's?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's hard, but I think it's possible. And I think that, in the world we currently are, we do need some of this positivity. One of the people that we could have talked about, like I said, is, Gandhi, Tubman, a bunch of people that went through revolutions, as you can call it. It wasn't a positive time for them at all. But they stayed positive, and they came out through. I think if everyone just smiled a little in the world, it'd start to get better. Whether, it's admitting your friend is right, or, collecting some booze bottles in a video game to play a song, or going into someone else's stream and joking around. Whether if you're in pain, but you're going to be in pain anyways, so you decide to ignore the pain to have fun with a friend.
Yeah.
Whether if you're an annoying older sister who tries to be funny by threatening their sibling to be better. They'll all be that. Juby, you keep your cheeky girls to yourself. I gave you that privilege. Do not make me take it away. One of the things I would like to talk about now is legacy from the dead. People that had no legacy, but left one behind. And I think the easiest way to do that would be martyrs.
People who died for a cause.
Well, not even maybe they died for a cause. Some of them, yes, but also those that, when they die, people then see a cause. You know, they're willing to rally up, they're willing to fight. Whether if you're alive or dead, I think you can have a legacy. Even if you didn't have one before. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, we agree whether if you're a small child or an old man, you can have a legacy.
It's possible.
Whether if you're two blithering idiots like us, you know, where's average so we can have all three blithering idiots here? Okay, whether if you're just dummies like us, you know, hopefully I can pass on some positivity and you guys want to be positive for the rest of your day.
Yep.
Whether if, you know, you're male, female, they, them, whatever you identify as. So why don't we all just laugh like that? You know, and have some fun.
Droopy, you can't be that because Aka's already a small child and an old man rolled up in one.
What did you just say?
Look at what Droopy said.
Yeah, what did you say?
That wouldn't be possible because Aka's already both of those things rolled up in one.
I have a new nickname, guys.
Droopy stepchild?
Ooh! I am -4 years old, according to Droopy. So even someone who's not born yet can have a legacy, according to Droopy. And that leaves me to the final thing. Our final thing should be talking about, I think, the final legacy. And that was, if I was to tell you right now, Ross, you have 6 days to live. Would you go out of those 6 days doing what you want to do for yourself? Or would you go out of there and spend those 6 days doing something that you could leave behind so others could do those things?
Probably go with the latter because I don't want to be selfish in my dying days. What am I to gain if I'm going to die anyways? I should give back to the world.
I so agree. And you know, it's so funny that you and me say that, because when we play games together, we'll let each other die for our own benefits. Just being realistic. But when it comes down to it, you know, we break. And whether if we're like to view that we're strong and we're weak, we're smart and we're dumb, we're handsome but we're actually ugly, or that we're evil and we're actually nice. We all can give a little to gain a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's what legacy's all about.